Today we will be talking about dealing with the effects of presenteeism. So what is presenteeism? The definition offered by the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine described presenteeism as the measurable extent to which health symptoms, conditions, and diseases adversely affect the productivity of individuals who choose to remain at work. So what are the two different types of presenteeism? The two different types of presenteeism are sickness and non-sickness presenteeism. Non-sickness presenteeism occurs when employees come to work while physically fine, but suffer from personal conditions, family issues, and workplace pressure. Some of the most common sources of non-sickness presenteeism are stress, depression, work-life conflict, labor shortage, personal financial difficulties, and family issues. Sickness presenteeism is on-the-job productivity loss due to illness. Some of the most common illnesses that contribute to sickness presenteeism are allergies, arthritis, migraines and headaches, diabetes, acid reflux disease, cancer, and recent flu diagnosis. So what are the factors that play into presenteeism? The factors that most heavily influence presenteeism in organizations are time pressure, guilt, stress, and aspects of a work environment such as unclear expectations, excessive demands, low levels of control, and poor social support. A survey was conducted by Prater and Smith in 2011 to report the respondents' reasoning for coming to work while sick or not mentally and emotionally capable of being productive. The respondents' reasonings were split into categories, the categories being sickness and/or sick leave-related reasons, sense of duty and concern for colleagues, possible retaliation from supervisors and managers, and a list of others. Some of the most common answers within the categories found throughout the study were not sick enough to use a sick day, a sense of duty to their job and coworkers, a fear of losing their job, and needing money or some form of financial obligations that they needed to meet.
Hello, my name is Jerry Shaker and I'm done on the effects of presenteeism in the workplace. So it's pretty much a situation that leads to productivity reduction, lower work quality, and an increased risk of developing health disorders. And research shows that presenteeism due to illness or depression is common. It's very common in the workplace, but it's often unaddressed, and this can be very costly to companies. Let us look at those problems caused by presenteeism. Presenteeism poses a huge problem when it comes to employees' productivity levels, but many might view it as a sign of dedication to the job. If an employee is coming into work when they are ill, they are most likely to have difficulty concentrating on the job or performing their tasks to their full potential. Let us look at presenteeism from an employee's point of view. Presenteeism is important from an employee point of view in that it might exacerbate existing medical conditions, damage the quality of working life, and lead to impressions of ineffectiveness at work due to reduced productivity. Um, Presenteeism is not about pretending to be ill to avoid your tasks at work or surfing the internet when you really should be performing your duties, but it refers to productivity loss resulting from real health problems. Employees with overdeveloped sense of duty can push yourself to work when they really should be taking time off. This is because managers often judge employees based on how many hours they work rather than by their end product and contribution. That is, if a boss can see you sitting in front of a computer screen, you are definitely seen as a good employee and very hardworking. Presentation from an organizational point of view. People may think that more work for employees is better for business. Yeah, of course it is. But working while ill can not only prevent you from working to the best of your ability, it also can affect your coworkers. And that's the knock on effect I will talk about later. Because when presentation occurs in the workplace, you can end up with multiple people sick for weeks instead of one person out of the office for days. And this costs companies a lot. Its impact is just harder to quantify than absence due to sick days. Also, two articles in the Journal of the American Medical Association reported that depression set U.S. employers back some 35 billion a year in reduced performance at work, and that pain conditions such as headaches and back problems cost nearly 47 billion. And besides, most studies confirm that presenteeism is far more costly than illness-related absenteeism or disability. So, these are the three major effects to consider when identifying presenteeism in the workplace. We've talked about the cost and productivity loss. Now, the knock-on effect is where an employee health problem affects other coworkers. But here's the point. A disease that makes you feel bad may be deadly or badly affect other coworkers in the office. And when this occurs, a company can end up with multiple employees sick over weeks instead of one person out of the office for a couple of days, which would most definitely affect the cost and productivity loss of a company. For the next part, my colleague will be talking about ways to make the workplace more efficient in overcoming presenteeism. Thank you.
For my part of the presentation, I'll be talking about the effects of presenteeism, the alternative to presenteeism, and a couple ways to overcome presenteeism in the workplace. We'll start with explaining absenteeism. Absenteeism is an alternative to presenteeism. It will be something that we use to better explain the effects of presenteeism and how to overcome them. Absenteeism is best defined as the absence from work without a good reason, and it usually manifests itself when workers are not transparent about their conditions. Some important things to note is it's the alternative to presenteeism. It is important to understand that there are differences in symptoms and outcomes. There's often a mix of presenteeism and absenteeism where workers will come in sick a few days and then realize that they aren't being productive and then they'll stop coming to work, and that there is no one remedy that cures everything. One of the different types of mixes is high absenteeism, high presenteeism, where it's high absenteeism as in it's pretty common for workers to not come into work, and high presenteeism, whereas when they come to work, they're very restricted in the activities they can do, usually due to some kind of physical or chronic illness, some of those being stress, anxiety, and lower back pain. Because these illnesses are usually chronic, an important step you can take is to get the individual therapy while they're still in the infancy stages of the disease or illness. Some problems that arise are that some individuals aren't forward about their disabilities or illnesses, and sometimes people are just too far gone, whereas company rehabilitation doesn't work and the company needs to dismiss them on grounds of ill health. The next mix is low absenteeism, high presenteeism, whereas workers are at work a lot, but they may not be performing at a very efficient rate. This is usually caused by individuals with some type of physical pain, whether that be in the shoulder or neck, or having something like arthritis, which makes it difficult for them to perform certain duties. A recommendation would be job accommodations. Because these injuries heal a lot faster than chronic illnesses, the best course of action is to temporarily readjust a job to remove the hindering psychological or physical factors so that they can still be in a work environment and still help contribute to a company. Next, we'll talk about how to make the workplace more efficient and improve job satisfaction / performance overall. While most cases of presenteeism need to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, a general set of steps and rules have been established to help with both recovery and prevention, that being a preventative step, a detection / testing step, and a more hands-on rehabilitation step. These three are also known as the primary, secondary, and tertiary steps. The first strategy to manage presenteeism is the primary controls, also known as the preventative steps. And this is because such a huge part of presenteeism is an individual's psychosocial environment, which means it's important to stimulate and support these employees so that these illnesses aren't developing in the first place. And some ways that you can do that are health education, safety engineering, better organizational design / more job control for employees, nutrition education, and of course immunizations. The second strategy is known as the secondary controls, which is more of a screening testing phase, and it's used to help uncover these illnesses so that the employees can get a more tailored course of action. Some of these recommendations down here include screenings, biometric testing, health coaching, proactive work disability prevention programs, and of course the implementation of all the other recommendations found in the primary controls. The final strategy is also known as the tertiary controls, which is more about rehabilitation. This is about like integrating employees back into the company after injuries or illnesses, and or rehabilitating employees that are dealing with more chronic issues right now. And some of the recommendations that it gives are disease management, return to work programs, disability management, and vocational rehabilitation. In conclusion, studies show that people recover a lot faster, both physically and psychologically, when proper work conditions are met. So it needs to become a priority for employers to maintain not only a proper work environment, but also a proper workload for their employees, unless they want to see long-term hits to a company's efficiency and more profits. And finally, here's our references. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks.